Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farhan. Once again, we are going to talk about the election campaign, the politics of Pakistan, what exactly is happening right now. Yesterday, as we mentioned, the election campaigns have started. At least PTI kicked off its election campaign day before yesterday. We have seen also the president of PML N, Sharif, also going to Karachi and starting his own campaign. But we haven't seen the same kind of response coming from PMLN so far. As for People's Party, we still are trying to figure out what is its strategy. But PTI is there. And likewise, when you talk about accountability process, it is continuing. We know many people have gone to the election tribunals as well because their candidature was rejected based on some principle of accountability that we have been discussing for quite some time, or at least because of the discrepancies in the documentation that they presented. Today we are going to try to understand how things are going to unfold. Day before yesterday, Imran Khan promised that he is going to come up with one great manifesto. But so far, we are 30 days away from the elections. We haven't seen any manifesto coming from PTI either. When it comes to PMLN and People's Party, we haven't seen any manifesto from them too so far. MMA perhaps is the only party from the mainstream political groupings that has come up with a manifesto, but usually with such parties it is difficult to discern what they are promising and what they are going to deliver. We are going to talk about the election campaign and the fact that Nawaz Sharif might not be participating in the election campaigns. In order to help us understand these matters and more, we are joined by a senior advocate and analyst, Imtiaz Warrich. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Javed Rana. If you watch this program regularly, he needs no introduction, is an analyst. Thank you very much for your time, Rana sir. Next to him is Dr. Abid Abbasi. He's a pedagogue and also an analyst, an expert on political affairs. Thank you very much, Dr. Abbasi, for your participation as well. But I about to start with you. Why is it that we haven't seen any momentum so far?
Yes, you are right, because the main reason was, I guess, that filing of nomination papers and objections over that, or on various nomination papers and these type of things.
I'll have to interject there. My producer just asked me to take a break. Okay. We might have to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to resume from the very spot where we left. Take a break. Welcome back. Before going to the break, I was asking one of our participants what exactly is the reason behind this lack of warmth in the electoral campaigning at this moment. Back to you, Warrich sir, your take on this?
Yeah, it is because of, I guess, there are 2-3 factors. Number one was awarding of tickets, which could not be finalized. Most of the, you see, some of the tickets were awarded even yesterday. That was announced by PMLN and PTI, etc. So I guess the candidates were very much busy about that, whether they are getting ticket or not from their party, number one. Number two, filing of objections against them, against their candidature. And the matters were being, you see, chased and followed in the courts. And which is now, I guess, by today, most of the candidates, they are clear, and at least main streamline leadership is clear.
Right.
And The third thing is that uncertainty, which is being faced by PML N even now,
Right.
because of that case, and you see the critical
But that,
health
Vadai
situation.
Sahab, stops Mia Nawaz Sharif from joining the fray. I can understand that. How does it stop Shahbaz Sharif from joining the fray or actually activating his full-blown electoral campaign?
The electoral campaign, if we go back a couple of months back, I guess they were in the mode of electoral campaign, you see. There were a lot of public, you see, meetings which were conducted in different big cities, all over Punjab, even KPK, and even PTI, they were also doing the same way. And they were also conducting meeting in whole of Pakistan almost, in Sindh, in
You're talking about the start of the Ramazan.
yeah.
After that, they stopped.
After that, they stopped, and there were couple of things, which were, number one is that uncertainty at the part of PTI, PMLN, because of critical situation and condition of Begum Kulsum Nawaz, and the case which is under trial, you see that still PMLN leadership is facing.
Right.
And third is that even Shahbaz Sharif is not clear, and you know that yesterday he was asked to appear in before NAB authorities,
Right.
and he has been given further time. I guess after elections, they have agreed to call him again for different, you see, cases which are under.
Right. Let me take this question to Javed Rana as well. Javed Rana, do you see any enthusiasm gap here or not at all?
Certainly, the gap is there. We don't find that kind of enthusiasm as it used to be in early 90s. When we compare it with early 90s, then I think the situation is altogether different.
No, I'm comparing it with 2013.
Now, in 2000, even in
1 month before the election
even in
2013.
2013, the enthusiasm was very much there. But I think the scale of enthusiasm, as it used to be in early 90s, that has been missing for last 1.5 decades. Part of the reason are these televisions, because these leaders prefer to communicate to the people through televisions.
Even in 2013, I remember we used to have televisions.
Again, I'm coming to that point. The point is...
Even in
the
1990s, we used
I
to have
think
television.
Now, some of the factors that my colleagues has referred about, they are very relevant. Because Nawaz Sharif right now, he
is abroad.
He is abroad, and I think his part of the election campaign, he has already played before the Ramadan. And now, you might recall, I can't forget those moments back in 2000 when Kulsum Nawaz was very much active on the streets. And as a matter of fact, she was fighting for the survival, political and physical survival of her husband. Now, Nawaz Sharif, I think he has made a point that he can't leave her in London.
Okay.
And those who are talking that he would not return, I think that's not going to be possible. He has got a political stake.
He's going to come back, but not right now.
But not right now.
He's not going to, you're saying he's not going to abandon her.
Certainly not, and I think he should
What
not.
did they do in past 2 months? Did they not abandon?
I think part of the reasons are because of the litigation that he's been facing in the NAB.
Whatever.
And he was not given permission, and then it was intervention from the Supreme Court, which said that you can leave. Now, trial court is more particular about the deadline. The Supreme Court, they have a broader perspective.
Right.
One cannot expect that Nawaz Sharif would not return.
Yeah,
He would return.
but Supreme Court has also given a deadline to the trial court.
In,
I don't know how to reconcile the two.
I think even in his absence, the judgment can be passed. He would.
Yes, because actually, you see, evidence part is completed now.
Okay.
No, they are at final arguments. So in final arguments, there is not much need of, you see, accused in present there, although there is requirement to meet the ends of justice that accused should be present
Right.
during the whole proceeding. But simple is just final arguments are being done by the defense counsel, or defense counsels, you can say, for Mariam and you see, and for the time being, you see, defense counsel on behalf of Nawaz Sharif, he's
Right.
arguing and giving his final.
So it can be done even in his absence, right?
Yeah, because evidence has been completed, cross-examinations have been done.
Cross-examination is done as
At
well.
least in
Dr.
one case.
Abbasi, your take on enthusiasm gap. Do you see it? You don't see it.
Probably to an extent there is a gap of enthusiasm if we compare these elections, as Rana Sahab said. But Imran Khan has started his campaign.
No, but Imran Khan is not the only party that is
No,
running.
I'm talking about the rest
People's
of
Party,
I will
PMLN.
definitely go to there as well. Pakistan People's Party is facing, a lot of troubles to nominate candidates in Punjab because most of the people are not willing to contest elections on their tickets. Some are stalwarts. They brought into the party. They are, trying to go for independent, and they are finalizing their tickets, awarding of tickets. And second thing which they are facing, that is whether to launch Bilawal Bhutto Zardari as an independent leader to launch campaign of Pakistan People's Party in Punjab and Sindh.
Is it even part of the conversation at this moment? Because from what we understand,
Most probably
Zardari
there would
Sahab
be-
sees himself as the prime ministerial candidate.
Sometimes he has been claiming so that he would be a candidate of prime ministership, but I think they can attract the people in Punjab through Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Zardari Sahab does not have any sort of charisma to attract large gathering in Punjab, and if whatever they left with them is that Bilawal, and that factor can play a role. And similarly, the Zardari Sahab's daughters, Bilawal and Bakhtawar and Asifa,
Asifa.
they could gather some crowds.
Because
having some-
they remind people of their mother,
their mother, obviously.
their charismatic mother.
And secondly, and if we talk about PMLN, much said by the gentleman, but still I think Nawaz Sharif has a very genuine reason to stay with her,
but
ailing wife. She was not as
I'm
critical as, she is today as compared to
Yeah,
past.
I'm not comparing him to anything. I'm not complaining about his absence. What I'm asking is, Shahbaz Sharif is in Pakistan.
I think, yes,
He's the president of the party. And if he wants to kick off the campaign in Punjab, elsewhere, nobody can stop him. So we don't see that kind of,
He chose to start his election campaign from Sindh, Karachi. He is in Karachi for, last day he went there, and today he has spoken to many, functions and gatherings over there.
Journalists
And
and-
secondly, what I believe that they are still in a condition of, a confusion or ambiguity whether they would be able to launch a massive effective campaign in Punjab without Nawaz Sharif or not, because you all people know, particularly you know very well, that the vote bank of PMLN is more associated with the personality of Nawaz Sharif. And if Nawaz Sharif comes and address the people gatherings, he could muster much support, more support as compared to Shahbaz Sharif, because Shahbaz Sharif is just the gap filler in the absence of Nawaz Sharif. He is not the main person to attract the
Why
PMLN
not?
supporters.
Why not?
Because-
PMLN won 2013 elections primarily because of the developmental work that Shahbaz Sharif did in Punjab.
Still the
And
charisma.
he has improved that lot further.
Obviously, he has done a lot of work, but again, people believe, the PMLN supporters believe that the force behind all those development projects is the VN of Nawaz Sharif, what they believe. Okay. And Nawaz Sharif is the most charismatic leader considered in PMLN sectors. And I think Nawaz Sharif, after ousted from the office of the prime ministership,
So
he
if,
has some sympathy wave as well.
So if Nawaz Sharif doesn't join the election campaign, as we have been told that he will not be joining the election campaign, at least in immediate future, do you think that PMLN doesn't have that kind of chances to win?
I think it's very difficult to predict the chances before Nawaz Sharif, because still his charisma is there, but he can mobilize people in more effective manner if he personally addresses the public gathering in Pakistan. Even Mariam has some charisma to attract the people, big crowds, because we have witnessed in past during the Ramadan and before the Ramadan, they were addressing to large public gathering, and there were massive crowds attracted by those father and daughter.
Right.
In
Let me
various-
put this question to Vadai Sahab as well. Vadai Sahab, do you think that in the absence of Mian Nawaz Sharif, PMLN will be able to gather that kind of crowds or get that kind of votes?
It's very difficult situation, you see, that for PMLN in the absence of me and Nawaz Sharif. Certainly, as Dr. Abid said, Nawaz Sharif has a charismatic personality for his party, no doubt, and people prefer to go there and hear him. And at the same time, Maryam Nawaz, that is new face in PML N, although she was active behind the scene during last 5 years, but in front, she has come during last, you see, 6 months.
Yeah, but she is daughter of former Prime Minister.
Of course,
I mean, the same family,
and the role which we are expecting that Bilawal Bhutto Zardari can play for People's Party, Maryam Nawaz can also, you see, like that. And I have seen in many public meetings that people go there and they want to hear Maryam Nawaz as well.
Right.
So it's so the momentum which is required to make a successful electoral campaign for PMLN will not be completed without in the absence of Mian Nawaz Sharif.
Okay.
This is very.
So what happens if he doesn't join the election campaign?
He has an option because Altaf Hussain, he was doing the same way because now this is new era, you see, and new era of technology. They can use that, and he's sitting in London, he can address to the gatherings. And
His hologram can address,
Yes,
like Bilawal Bhutto Zardari addressed a couple of public meetings.
Public meetings, and yes, Shehbaz Sharif can be there, and he can also address there, but Nawaz Sharif can address from using
Yeah,
this
but
technology.
here's the complication. It seems that Shehbaz Sharif could have actually run an effective election campaign on his own as well, Rana Saab. The problem is, it seems that somebody is stopping him. Is it possible that Mian Nawaz Sharif, his family, when they see that they cannot, come into power, they think that this time staying out of power is better than allowing the ownership of party to shift to uncle?
I think there are a lot of interesting developments which are happening. When Nawaz Sharif says that he is not going to talk on any political issue, because, and I think it makes also sense because his wife is in a very critical condition.
Yeah.
And today's statement of Shehbaz Sharif is very important. And he said that my partymen may not agree with me, but I would prefer a national government, even if we win the elections. I think probably there is a realization within the ranks and files of the PMLN that they are not going to win the elections.
What is a national government, by the way?
When they talk of national government, that means bringing representation from different ideological blocks, from different political
So that
parties.
means Shehbaz Sharif becomes prime minister and then he has cabinet from all the parties?
I think he is sending message to country's security establishment.
Okay.
That,
But he is not saying that he is going to induct army officers into his cabinet, is he?
But again, those who've been favored by the establishment, that kind of, when we talk of...
Why do we think somebody is being favored by the establishment? There is no evidence.
We know there is no evidence, and probably there would be little evidence in future. But we know that is a part of the reality in Pakistan.
Or part of our imagination in any
I
case.
think we have to be realistic because there has been repeated military takeovers in Pakistan.
This is a post-truth society. In that, realism can be different from another person's realism. Your realism might not be my realism.
I think my realism is what the most of the intellectuals, most of the analysts, and most of the journalists, most of the leaders of the political parties believe in.
Yeah, and this is what happens in the US as well. Pro-Trump people say their realism is the real realism. The other side says their realism is the realism.
You can say the
objectivity has become subjective.
The role of the establishment in making and breaking the governments in the past, that has been a reality.
But then I don't understand why every leader, every electable leader of PMLN has been cleared to participate in elections. It could have easily been something different. That didn't happen. 99% of people who presented themselves before the tribunals, filed a nomination, they have been cleared.
If you allow me, let me define the role. The establishment role is not that they are hiring and firing everything. You see, to some extent, I agree with PTI's argument when they say that this time around, PMLN did not get the kind of the favor they used to get from the establishment in the past. By 2013, there have been serious allegations about the role of the then Chief Justice and the then Army Chief.
Those allegations were the cause of 4 months of sit-in. We endured that. After that, there was a tribunal headed by the then CJ, who is now the Prime Minister.
Exactly.
It was thoroughly supported by PTI, and it thoroughly debunked those allegations.
No.
With due respect,
They
let
did
me
not.
go to the next
Let me clarify.
speaker.
The tribunal did
let me
not,
go to other-
did not
others
say
as well.
that the rigging did not take place. What they said was that it did not take place to a scale where there could
No,
have
a
been
systematic-
change of representation in the parliament.
Hang on, we know that booth capturing, box stuffing can take place anywhere, mostly in far-flung areas. But this entire implication that there was a conspiracy, or there usually is, your objective realism, sir, was debunked thoroughly
No,
by that
it
tribunal.
wasn't.
And let me go to Dr. Abbasi. Dr. Abbasi, at this moment, it seems that there's this impression that establishment is favoring one party, and it is mostly a construct of a media that cannot report on one big, land tycoon's case even today. You can know how subjective, objective the media itself is. But PTI doesn't seem to be that much interested in debunking that image either. It is making a good use of it.
I think it has been a very good commodity to use to muster the support of some of the segments of society that the powerful forces are behind us and we are going to come into power.
Right.
They are using just this because people have been using this sort of mantra in past as well. But
Including PMLN, by the way, back
obviously
in
PMLN
1990s.
has been using this mantra, this sort of narration in past. But secondly, there is your fundamental question that whether Shahbaz Sharif would be effective to launch a good campaign to attract the
It
support
wasn't
of
a
the
fundamental question at this moment. I was talking about PTI.
I'm trying to relate the question with the previous one, that Shahbaz Sharif and PML N is a state of confusion whether the narrative of Nawaz Sharif would prevail to muster the support of more people. That was the Khalai Makhluk and the Mujhe Kyon Nikala campaign. And secondly,
Today
Shahbaz
was
Sharif
quite
is more
Today was quite interesting. Somebody actually brought up the issue of the space aliens or Khalai Makhluk.
to Shahbaz Sharif.
Yeah, to Shahbaz
And he totally
Sharif.
ruled
And he
out
said
that, yes.
that I know about jinns,
Ji.
I don't know about these.
These.
So he has
These-
actually
this
complicated
is
the
a
story
difference.
further.
There's a good cop and bad cop policy launched. Whether Shahbaz Sharif is more, in a mood of reconciling with the forces of alleged interfering in sort
Is
of
it really a good cop, bad cop situation where both are aligned and both are working in a scheme the way it implies? Or it represents some kind of schizophrenia of a political party that now it has developed two brains. One wants to go and be reconciliatory.
This is what I'm
the
trying
other
to establish.
one wants to fight.
The narrative of Nawaz Sharif to go wholeheartely within, striking kind of actions and, to muster the support on the basis of
Vote ko
Islam.
izzat do.
And yes, vote ko izzat do, and the interference from the non-democratic segments should not be in the politics, and we are not going to,
Non-democratic or unelected? There's a
unelected, you may
difference,
say
yeah.
this, unelected. And Shahbaz Sharif is trying to reconcile, to bring, sort of some reconciliatory kind of policy. This is a difference between, both the brothers.
So
And
there is
PML
actually a split within the party.
Obviously, the split is there because Shahbaz Sharif has consistently been ruling out any interference from any segments. Or Nawaz
do you
Sharif
remember,
is...
with due respect, let me take you back two terms. 2008, Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto was assassinated. Even then, her party managed to have identifiable leadership. And that's why they somehow succeeded in forming the next government. In 2013, People's Party didn't have the leadership, one unified leadership. We didn't know who their prime minister could be. At that time, the two remaining parties had clarity about their leadership, and PMLN formed the government. Now, two parties have leadership crises. One, PMLN, second, People's Party. So, does it not actually eliminate the two, and PTI logically becomes the
not
easiest choice for
eliminate,
people?
but definitely PTI would, secure better sort of public support in this particular area, that they have one defined leader who would be the Prime Minister if PTI wins. The crisis of leadership in Pakistan People's Party does exist. Similarly, in PML N, as you referred, that it is not clear that if PML N would win the election, whether it would be Maryam Nawaz Sharif contesting for the Prime Ministership or Shahbaz Sharif would continue, though they have formally announced that Shahbaz Sharif would be the next candidate
they
for the
formally
premiership.
announced and they withdrew the suggestion.
And they have not formally announced.
They then also suggested that after Mia Nawaz Sharif, Shahbaz Sharif within 4 months will be the Prime Minister. Never happened.
Yes.
Till the
This was formally announced by Nawaz
yeah,
Sharif.
it was formally announced, and later on
Mr.
they
Abbasi
said it could not be.
continued,
Yeah, Mr. Abbasi.
So this also reflects some sort of, some
So
sort of
if I'm a
conflict
voter,
within the.
Dr. Abbasi, if I'm a voter, I will go for the easiest route possible. I will go for a party which knows which one is going to be its prime ministerial
But
candidate.
this is not the only source of attraction for voters.
What else is?
If the voters having their inclination towards PMLN for other reason, the only for this reason that they have not defined it, but because still the voters of PMLN and their supporters are linked or connected with Mia Nawaz Sharif. Mia Nawaz Sharif
Okay,
is the only
I
leader
tell
who has
you,
charisma.
as a citizen who drove, sir, across Punjab, I saw a lot of development. And Shahbaz Sharif's work might actually convince me that I have to vote for this party. But Mia Nawaz Sharif's legacy, whatever it is hardly that relevant in the elections. So what do you think of this?
Yes, I guess that even then I agree with Dr. Abbasi, because the personality of Nawaz Sharif, if we exclude Nawaz Sharif from PMLN, then there is a rather more possibility of even disintegration in the party, you see.
So, with due respect, all three of you keep calling Mia Nawaz Sharif sahab charismatic. Earlier, Nawaz,
For PMLN.
Imran Khan as well, and Asif Ali Zardari. People have called him charismatic as well. Do you think we have any charismatic leader left in Pakistan right now?
In the real sense of charismatic, a real sense of charismatic leadership, I don't see any leader having that much charisma, which is the real definition of a charismatic leader.
Not in this generation at least.
At least in this,
Bilawal
most
might
probably
have-
in coming future, Bilawal would be,
After
or
Bhutto, there has
Maryam.
been crisis.
There was crisis.
Bhutto and Benazir Bhutto.
When we are using a word, I guess all will be agreed with me, charismatic, Nawaz Sharif, Mia Nawaz Sharif sahab, that is for PMLN,
Okay.
not for
He has the kind of
people.
pull you
Yeah.
expect
And
from a leader.
similarly, the similar type of stature Imran Khan has in PTI, and that is a good point, because in PTI at least they know that what will happen if they will be successful in the elections, and Imran Khan definitely will be the Prime Minister. But in PMLN, there's still they have to work on.
Never jinx it by saying definitely.
He said
Say
if.
most likely.
He said if.
Most likely.
Use the word of if.
So in PMLN, there's still, you see, that type of, they have to decide. And they have not defined it, and they could not bring with certainty a name before the basis, before election. Although, if it could be done, that could be better, because people should be aware that who is going to run the business. And
The business of the government.
business of the government, yes. Now business
I
of the
thought you're talking about the other business.
and same is there, because there is possibility of Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, but still Asif Ali Zardari, he is still on, you see, driving seat, and he is not trying to surrender from there. And so there is also no clarity.
Who's not going to surrender? Asif Zardari.
Asif Ali Zardari.
Asif Zardari, his sister, or someone else?
Yeah, Asif Zardari means his sister as well, you see
Okay.
that. She is associated with him. No?
Not
And,
with his son
and there,
or daughter?
And there was some also, you see, somebody was, there was some discussion somewhere that might be Faryal Talpur could be the next Prime Minister if People's Party
Yeah.
gets in. So,
People have to think about voting then, right? But this running business bit that you actually just uttered reminded me of something very interesting. I was sitting somewhere, and somebody actually is telling us that he got used to scholarship. And he said, the exact words were, there in that university, I got addicted to scholarship. And at that time, he probably didn't realize that scholarship has more than one meaning. And then all of a sudden he said, I meant a teaching kind of scholarship, nothing else. So that is exactly what happened here as well. Running business and running business of state are two different things. Usually politicians might be confusing the two.
Because at the platform we are sitting here, we are discussing certainly about, we are talking about business of the government and state. So that means state business and not a personal business of.
But I think half of discussion, more than half of discussion in our television shows is about the private business of the former ruling party. So he's right, there could be.
No, but here's the problem. You know, there is selective amnesia whenever people talk about businesses or politicians. You know, every party has these elements that are now referred derogatory as the ATMs. Misal, for example, even in PTI, and yesterday, actually today, Imran Khan has accepted there is polarization within his party between two major leaders. One of them has been actually disqualified, and yet he sits in the party's CEC meetings. So, how exactly are we going to overcome this business? Because on one side, we have these mammoth, financial gurus sitting in the parties, and then today something else happened. Bahria town case once again was heard, and there was a very, incriminating kind of statements there, and yet media chose not to report. So what do we do when political parties cannot be relied upon because they cannot get rid of the rich people bailing them out? Media cannot be trusted because rich people might have stakes or might give them ads. What do you do then?
I think we lavishly criticize our establishment. Almost all the major channels. We have been discussing very objectively. But when it comes to these business tycoon like Riaz Malik, no discussion. And I think this censorship, self-censorship, I would call it as a financially motivated self-censorship by the media. That is a design to get maximum financial advantage from the business tycoon. And you might recall 2-3 years back, Altaf Hussain enjoyed that kind of status.
Yeah, but there's a huge difference. Apple and oranges.
Exactly. He was using terror as a source to intimidate journalists.
And others are using money.
Here we have tycoon, which is using his financial resources as a source to suppress freedom of expression.
So where's the reset? How do you correct the system?
I think it is a evolving process, gradual process. There is a resentment within the media, and I think that.
Do you honestly think there is resentment? Because then I would actually assume that a journalist who cannot report on their own channel will take to social media and at least share the report. I don't see, the only media group that I saw reporting on this was Dawn. And the only people associated with any group that were actually tweeting about it were also from Dawn, or might be you and I, nobody else. So who corrects the system?
Let's be not pessimist.
I'm not going to be a pessimist, but I have to ask this question. Dr. Abbasi, your take.
Actually, in capitalist system across the globe, the reality or the exact truth cannot be displayed, cannot be told to the people.
Sir, but this is not capitalism. It is something very different.
It is capitalism.
It's a form of capitalism.
This is cartelization.
It's a part of capitalism.
Cartelization is a very core part of capitalism.
Sir, with due respect, where you have cartelization of imagination or facts, where you are actually stopping information.
Those cartelization and those, concealing of facts by those, monopolists due to the financial resources.
Okay.
If somebody is pumping huge money in form of ads and giving perks and privileges to the working journalists even who have some say in the media, definitely they would not open their mouth against that.
Recently I heard people coming from this region, people complaining that in the Western media we will not hear any debate on guns. We saw debates on guns and media is very open about it. there was also this question of Jewish community or Israel not being criticized. We recently saw Israel also being criticized. When you talk about business owners, media channels report about their own owners and expose
But
their
these are
own
very,
corruption
very,
as well.
very rare, not very much
No,
common.
say it is happening, and I can
It
give
is
you
happening, but very
1,001
rarely. As
example.
Rana sir said,
Sir, here in this country, one man, I mean, whenever something happens, none of the media groups, with the exception, one of the media group does it, nobody else reports.
partial segment of that media group as well. If you talk about the print media of Dawn,
No,
the
they
stories
also
published.
report. They report it.
I haven't seen on Dawn TV.
I
anything. Most
can
probably,
share both.
They must have reported.
You
Yeah,
must be
they
right.
have
but,
reported.
Rana Sahib has said that this evolving continuous process can bring some changes, or the other way is the
No,
revolution.
but then what happens? You might be able to get rid of the tactics used by Altaf Hussain, or perhaps maybe Altaf Hussain himself. But what happens when somebody else assumes that kind of power in the very
Most
same
probably
city?
when the powerful, the most powerful of the powerfuls, if they would against any sort of person who is pumping money and getting his narrative,
The
narrative
man
favoring
had the
consent.
gall of going to the court and saying that I've never bribed anybody. Whereas only few years ago, the very same man stood in front of the very same Supreme Court building, claiming that he has bribed son of a former CJ.
Not only the son of the former CJ, but he has,
Categorically said that he attaches.
He's been
he
driving
has
the bureaucracy.
boarded about 400 journalists in his, plan and, send them for pilgrimage or Hajj. And similarly, he has said on a very reputed news channel that, yes, I have been pumping, I have been, giving money
Using wheels.
Attaching wheels to files.
Yes, of course.
And
And,
all
he
that.
has been claiming on, and you might have seen that recently huge, ads are being displayed on different channels.
Dr. Saab, I don't care what exactly that man does to the system. I have nothing personal against him. My concern is when you have this kind of cartelization of resources, usually the first thing that suffers is merit itself. In this society, in a capitalist society, upward mobility stops because that can only happen if a man, uses his clout or his money to help you out. And that becomes a problem. And at this moment, I don't see people actually going after the matter the way it should be. I haven't seen any parliamentary debates. There still is a Senate in place. Honorable Supreme Court has taken up the issue, and hats off to them. Because I understand there must be humongous pressure coming from everywhere if the man has that kind of ungodly powers. But I don't see anybody else actually moving at all. I do, if there is something implicating about Mian Nawaz Sharif, I see wall-to-wall coverage on television. I see Twitter handles and Twitter hashtags emerging within seconds. Same goes for Imran Khan. Same goes for Zardari, Asif Ali Zardari. Nothing about this man.
Actually, he is not in politics, and corporate media having his financial interest, or when the Nawaz Sharif allegedly having some sort of, business,
No, but
was in
talking
position
about-
to give business to the
So
media
with due respect,
channels.
I'm talking about the bare minimum of patriotism. My grandmother used to say that even if a dog sits somewhere, through its tail, it cleans the place. We are human beings. And that is important.
Still, we need to evolve a lot to become good
Actually,
human beings.
such things don't go long time. You see that, as Dr. Saab has said, that this is evolution. We are passing through that evolutionary phase, you see. And with the passage of time, like we have given
Can
my
you
colleagues have
prove
given
that in
example.
past 20 years we have evolved at all?
Yeah, we have it all because we are sitting here and we are talking freely now, and we are talking more, you see, and especially you see that people
The
talk
topic we are talking on
people
might
talk
be
about-
allowed
people
on
talk
the
about,
state channel,
people
but
talk
on
about-
private media it is
No,
not.
people talk about establishment, Nobody could
It's not an ordinary thing.
Yeah, but
10 or 5 years before, nobody has so much, you see.
Pressures are
freedom
still there,
of-
but things are evolving.
So things are being open, and you see that one day will come that
either they are evolving or they are getting too decentralized to even notice.
actually you see that
I mean, 20 years ago, we used to have one screen. Now we have 50, catering to the same kind of
but
news, clientele.
but these screens,
Divergent
you see,
voices are coming.
this spread of screens are also playing a role of grooming people, and you see people being mature now, and
The screen is not grooming
no,
itself.
that
This
is
is what
sort
I'm
of-
saying.
no, there's
This
many
is the
other
problem.
There are many other factors, but you see that people, they have their own opinion, and especially young generation, you see.
Okay.
I'm very much optimistic over young
So-
generation.
Just the last point I want to make, that you see, if the Don has reported it,
Right.
how it is being displayed at the social media.
Right.
People are getting all the information. Look at the way Chief Justice has handled it. He said, you are doing so many charities, but that doesn't mean that at the same time you're illegally occupying
No,
the land.
but do you know why? He actually not only runs wall-to-wall advertisements telling how charitable he is. He goes to the court
And
and
tells it,
tells
plead it.
4 or 5 times that I'm so charitable, I'm running the country. My problem is, while we are talking about democracy, while we are talking about elections, while we are talking about media freedoms, we have to take into cognizance that these forces also influence elections, and then they actually end up giving you impression that it is basically establishment, nobody else, who is trying to fix the elections. And that becomes a problem.
No, but that is, you see, we must appreciate that this is also blessing that Superior Court that is taking cognizance of this
I
issue.
said it already. I'm grateful.
Which was not being done 5 years back or more than that back.
10 years ago, he was not that kind of a problem.
Exactly.
And that creates a problem.
I guess he started his, I guess in 90s, you see, 94, 93, and he got momentum of this you see, stature, and then he.
One party is completely in his control.
Yes.
That
Which
is-
one?
Which is People's Party. Let's be fair. The way he has handled the.
No, there
And
are
that's why
many,
he went
there
to-
are
He has
many good
control
people.
on many
And that's why he
other
went to
segments
Karachi.
as well.
Went to Karachi. and
He might be very close to Asif Ali Zardari.
That means
Doesn't
people-
mean
that means
Kamrul
people's
Zaman
party.
Kaira is in his pocket. He is not.
But
There are
Kamrul
3
Zaman
other
Kaira
good
is not
people
calling shot
in the
People's
party.
No, in Pakistan.
He's not calling shot in Sindh government. Zardari Sahab has been calling shot in the Sindh government. He has influenced the Sindh government to allot him huge land illegally.
So why are we talking about the elections then? Shouldn't we be talking about the mood of this state, this property tycoon?
Just
actually?
one set on the surface. There are so many other sets also working. The media tycoons are also trying to, turn over the, situation. They have some sort of, leverage in their hands as well, because we have been saying in past that Nawaz Sharif narratives was promoted by one media organization
it's
to
still-
a massive level.
even
And
today it
when they
was.
took over, I think the situation is now.
Today, one man was arrested and his son's video message was continuously played. And this is the problem. They are very powerful people and they want to bend the national agenda to their liking.
Yes.
But with due
And they
respect, sir,
influence a lot to the process of this
but
election.
at least they are being, somebody is talking about them, right? Their opponents actually do that. The case that I mentioned,
Their
only
opponents
one
do not
group
talk-
actually did.
Do not talk on the screen.
Yeah.
Most probably behind the screen somebody would be talking, but on screen.
Let us hope that that is happening.
At least social media is there.
Let us hope somebody is talking about that, because at this moment we need people with courage and people who really want to fix the country, not one bit of it, every bit. I'm told that we have to conclude the program. Dr. Abbasi, thank you very much for your time. Javed, Rana, always a pleasure having you in the show. Imtiaz Warrich sahab, always great having you in the show as well. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. Discussion of this sort has to continue because we are in the election season. At least we are cognizant of that. Let us see how the private media treats the elections. Are they going to run one party or the other's election campaign, or they are going to try to balance out and bring you news as it is supposed to be, or they are going to just reflect the choices of one state or the other. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.